I mean, the first thing that I found after my sobriety, I was like, why am I here? Okay, my 1500 Chevy flipped end over front, so like more than 6 times, landed on its tailgate underneath a bridge like this. My side of the truck was crushed completely. My seat mounts broke, and I was sent to the back seat, and I was given lots of damage to my body. Whereas my passenger in the truck opened his door and walked away. The first question I had to ask myself is, why? Why am I still here? I should be dead.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the Self-Instruct podcast. Today's guest is Zach Traxler. Zach is a passionate educator, artist, single dad, and advocate for personal growth. As a teacher at Fort Hays Career Center in Columbus, Ohio, he shares his love for the arts with the next generation while also navigating his own journey of recovery from addiction. Deeply committed to both his commercial art business and his newfound spiritual path, Zach uses his talents not only to advance his career, but to inspire others. Through his active Instagram presence, he connects with a wider community, offering hope, guidance, and motivation to those who may be facing their own challenges. Welcome to the show, Zach.
Thank you.
Zach, we're like I said, we're so happy that you're here with us, and your story is so inspiring, and we're just glad you're here sharing it. I know that you're taking time off of work and your teaching schedule to be here with us, so we are definitely grateful for that and for you. So yeah, let's start off with just share a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background and what you do currently, and what's brought you to this current place in your life.
Well, my story is big, wide, large, long. I've lived a lot of lives in this life. I've lived many lives before this life. But I'm really blessed that I'm awake in this life now where I am, and I'm able to heal from my past and grow from my past and help others with that healing and growth. And so I like to share as much of it as I possibly can. Where I've landed today is I actually teach graphic design and printing at Fort Hays Career Center, where I graduated from high school in 2006. And there's a really cool story of how I got there. So I moved from Athens, Ohio in 2003.
Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from
originally
Northern Kentucky.
Northern Kentucky.
Lewis County, Kentucky. I actually love it that anytime you ask somebody from Kentucky or West Virginia where they're from, they give you the county instead of the town.
Or the city, yeah.
Yeah, so the town is Vanceburg, but the farm is Traxler Farms or Griffin Hollow Farms down in Lewis County, Kentucky. But we only lived there for a few years. I grew up in Athens. Went to school in Athens, and then my mom took a job at an international nonprofit run through Ohio State University here in Columbus, and I was presented the opportunity to check out this really cool art school, which was Fort Hays. And so I applied and built a portfolio, got into the program, and all of the Career Center programs prepare students for the trade, either going to start their business or going directly into a trade, whether it's automotive or construction or graphic design, and some other nursing, some other programs. And that particular program is the only one that actually prepares students to go to a 4-year school like Columbus College of Art and Design.
Right.
So I'd set a goal for myself to go to Columbus College of Art and Design on scholarship, and I did just that. I graduated top of my class. I won an award most outstanding student, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
I went to CCAD. I made it about a semester, and then I dropped out. There's again, a whole nother story behind that, but that's another day. And then I kind of floated around Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, working jobs that I learned to do off the farm. So, building, electrical, plumbing, finishing, painting, all of those kind of hand skill trade jobs.
Sure.
And then I moved back to Columbus, and my timelines are a little bit rough on my brain because I was in a really bad accident in 2020, which we'll get to. But I met my now ex-wife then, and we fell in love. And about 1.5 years, 2 years later, we got married. And instead of going on a honeymoon, I started a printing company in my basement. I was working a full-time internet job at the time. I grew that from my basement in Clintonville to about a $7.5 million company, 55,000 square feet, 35 full-time employees, about 30 part-time employees seasonally. It was my dream. It was like the American dream, and I had it in my hands. But along with, making lots of money and traveling for licensing conferences and stuff, I started drinking again. I'd been sober from the end of or middle of my senior year when I was in rehab till then, and started drinking a lot. And when I was coming home from trips, I couldn't focus and I couldn't get my work done that I needed to, because I was more worried about getting drunk or feeding what I didn't know at the time was my addiction, or falling back into my addiction of drinking. And I started using Adderall, and then that didn't work with drinking, so I started using cocaine, and then I started partying too. So then I started using ketamine. So then it was like, ooh, this is a cocktail of craziness. And in 2020, during the pandemic, I actually went out to California with a few friends, and we started a company out there, and then we came back to Ohio. We partied for 3 days at Buckeye Lake, and then I definitely drove home drunk from Buckeye Lake, because I don't remember driving home from Buckeye Lake. I slept through Sunday, all of Monday, woke up late to an investment meeting that we were supposed to have in Reynoldsburg, or a meeting we were supposed to have in Reynoldsburg, and jumped in the truck with my, at the time, roommate and business partner. Fell asleep at the wheel and wrecked my beautiful Chevy truck that was on my vision board, and flipped it end over front like 8 or 9 times. It took 45 minutes and like 16 first responders in the jaws of life to cut me out.
Wow.
If you look at the pictures, they're posted way back on social media. I don't post them again because my mom would rather not see those again.
Sure.
And said she'd definitely unfollow me or block me on social media if I did. So I'm going to respect that boundary.
Traumatizing for her too.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
You know, she helped me through my first round of rehab in high school. I was given the opportunity to move out or to go to rehab and fix my shit, and so I did. I fixed it. Then several years later, fell back into it, unfortunately. So my family's got a history of addiction. So I refused painkillers and opioids and healed with plant medicine. So if you can imagine, to give you a list of my injuries, I had broken almost all of my ribs, including my R1s, which are all the way up here. So imagine breaking your collarbone, but worse. I broke my right tibia in half. I separated my left patella. I ruptured my spleen. I broke my eye sockets, my nose, had 3 severe brain contusions. Went to Mount Carmel East. They released me, I guess, without giving me a full body scan. Didn't realize that I had a ruptured spleen. Luckily, at the time, I lived behind Riverside Hospital. So the next day when I woke up with my bed covered in blood, I was just wheeled across the street to the ER. And that's where my life was truly saved by the folks at Riverside.
Wow.
So I couldn't do anything. I mean, I couldn't move, and I'm a doer. If anybody listening knows me, that's what I do. I just do whatever it is all the time. Like idle hands, that's danger.
Sure.
So, but I had signed power of attorney of my company over to my mom, and the decision was really early on that I needed to close the company, but we were close to a 10-year-old company at that time. So I just asked my mom to wait till we were 10 years and 1 day old, and then we would close the company. And we did, and that was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Building something that great and then creating jobs for people and then retaining those people for 5 to 7 years for our industry. That's unheard of. So it was really cool to have those people around me and to support me, but it ripped my guts out to let them go.
It's like your baby, right?
Yeah.
It's like letting your baby go.
Yeah, all of my babies.
Yeah,
So, but as I tried to piece stories and interactions with people while I was addicted and using, a guy named Keith Moorfield came into my offices in 2019 and asked me if I'd ever consider being a teacher. And I was like, yeah, right. They make a fifth of what I make. There's no way I'm going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
That was the universe, though, planting this seed for me to not consciously grab onto, but keep in the back of my subconscious. Because then I went through all my, what I call fuck shit, basically, and just did the stupid things that life was like, you're going to do this, and sure, you can do whatever you want, but eventually you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. And for me, that was recovering from my accident, and then I worked for another company, a promotional products company, for 11 months, and they let me go right before my bonus. I'll never forget that. That was pretty shitty. And I walked in, my brother at the time, my twin brother, Alex, used to teach shop at Hilltony Middle School, and I walked into his classroom. The day I was let go was February 11th, I think, 2021, and somebody from the career tech office was there, and they're like, hey, Keith Moorfield's still looking for a replacement. I'm like, why do I know that name? And I'm like, oh yeah, he came in my office and asked me if I wanted to be a teacher. Well, he had actually rescinded his retirement during the pandemic. Very nice of him because they couldn't find a teacher to replace him for the program. It's a very cool program. And I was like, well, I'd love to interview for that job if it's still available. And I interviewed for the job and was given the job and started the job.
No teaching degree needed?
So here's the funny part. Again, life telling him coming in, me deciding not to close my company before 10 years. If I closed at 9 years and 360 days, I wouldn't have been eligible for the job. To be a career tech teacher in the state of Ohio, you have to have a bachelor's degree or you have to have 10 years business experience. Remember, I dropped out of Columbus College of Art and Design. I don't have a degree.
Wow.
I have 10 years and 1 day business experience, according to the IRS. So that qualified me for the job.
That's amazing, man.
So that was like kismet is what I say.
Synchronicity, yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
all the synchronicities. And like, as I was laying in bed for months, healing without, all the painkillers and stuff and plant medicine, I had a lot of time to just self-reflect. And that's when I really began the journey of healing myself, past traumas, shadow work, whatever you want to call it, and started being extremely intentional to myself before even discovering what boundaries were, setting up boundaries and then honoring those boundaries and everything that comes with it. It's been a wild ride. And it's like proof that like, if you can like hold space for yourself and work on yourself, that everything will come in abundance.
Absolutely.
It'll just flow.
So how long have you been in recovery now?
I am now 1,437 days sober.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations for sure.
I actually don't normally count. I did look it up before I came in today because I didn't remember. But yeah, Halloween is my annual anniversary. So this Halloween will be 4 years.
It's wild how, sometimes for a lot of us, it takes a catastrophe like a horrible car accident like that to like really sort of force us to shift focus and to shift, perspective. And I mean, obviously far more than that, right? Having to be bedridden for so long and having no choice but to sit there and, like you said, self-reflect. Tell us a little bit more about that in terms of, what is therapeutic for you in terms of your recovery? What therapeutic methods do you use that help you with your recovery on a daily basis? Yeah,
the first thing I'll actually start off by saying is talking about like sobriety in general and I guess taking the leap or embracing sobriety. A lot of people have this perspective of sobriety that you have to go to AA meetings. And actually that was a huge, when I was recovering, my divorce actually got drawn out from 2018 all the way into 2020 for many different reasons. But the guardian ad litem for the children wanted me to go to AA. And I was like, that is the most triggering thing that you can put me in. I'm not a person that believes in one higher power. I believe that we are God. We have the ability to create everything that we want in life. There is nobody above us. We shouldn't be fearing something that doesn't exist. Like, that's just crazy.
You have the power within you to make the change.
You have. And so just the whole thought of AA, and they're like, oh, it's not about God. It's about a higher power. Well, that higher power is you. So just take that out. But if you take that out, and then the whole AA model just collapses. And so what I used was smartrecovery.org, which is an amazing scientifically proven program with amazing toolbox and a community of people to support. So if anybody's interested in sobriety, please check out smartrecovery.com. And then there's other organizations like the Phoenix. They're a national organization that help link all kinds of meetings, whether it's Smart Recovery, AA, all that stuff. But yeah, what that looked like for me, it was really hard. It was also really hard because going from a person that was I was on the homepage of my bank for a year plus, and billboards and magazines and all that. And everybody knew me, and everybody was always like, yeah, we'll take you to appointments or we'll help you out this. And not a single person from that group of people that were active in my life right before the accident, partying with me, traveling with me, showed up. Not a single one. It's crazy. People that showed up were people that I was friends with in high school at 4 days. They took me to appointments. My parents took me to appointments. My family helped me out.
People who truly care about you.
Right. And the community that I helped build and support through print for 10 years through Traxler Printing. We weren't a nonprofit. We weren't a B Corp, but I tried to donate as much money as I possibly could, or time or print to the community that I could and resided within, that's Columbus or Clintonville or just Ohio. And they came back tenfold to support me and help me, whether it was monetary on the GoFundMe or it was taking me to appointments, or even after I recovered and not being able to afford Christmas presents for my kids. A client, she bought one retail shirt off my website. And I think she worked for a bar that had done a couple custom orders for us. But like, she bought my son a brand new Xbox. Like, I put a Facebook post out. I was like, I'm looking for a used Xbox for my son. And she's like, oh, what kind does he want? I'm like, Xbox S. And like, she's like, all right, what's your address? I'll ship it to you. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
That's insane. Like, so, and it's just like big, I guess, to me, that's a big thing. I mean,
Of
that's
course.
like it's $1,000 purchase
It's huge,
for somebody
yeah.
that, like,
Not even for you, but for your kid.
but for
you
my
know?
kid, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge. It's big. You know, and unfortunately at the time, my son believed in Santa at that time, so I didn't get to really tell him who it was from. But this last year, I got to tell him who it was from, and like, we both broke down crying. Like, it's crazy. It's super, super awesome. So, but I mean, I guess a lot of it was, the biggest part of all of this is that I've discovered truly that, like, being lonely or being alone and how to be alone and deal with loneliness. I'm an identical twin, and I've used some sort of substance since I was 13, starting with tobacco or weed. And so I've never really felt what it's like to be alone. I've been with my brother, I've been using a substance, or I've been in a relationship. And in all of those, it's maybe even layered. It's all the things on top of each other. And so when I'm alone, I'm not really alone because I can't feel that. I don't see it, you know. But being sober was like, oh, this is what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
And even more recently, you know, becoming a teacher and getting sober from cannabis, I'm like, oh, these are real. This is really what it feels like to be alone and facing that. And it's been really hard, you know, and through that, I've uncovered even more about myself. Like, I'm my hardest critic. I'm always the hardest on myself, but I've never told myself, or I have now, but at the time, I'd never told myself how proud I was of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm really proud of myself, you know? So, yeah.
I just wanted to ask, just because it made me think about it while you were just speaking, have you been finding, or are you hoping to find, you know, in the future, if not already, those moments of inner peace where you've come to, not necessarily just come to terms with yourself, but to welcome those moments of you know, because I find, and it took me many years to feel this way, but I find that I look forward to those moments by myself these days, where, like, you know, I can, because I'm a business owner, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I teach, you know, and I'm a student, where we, you know, to the gym that we go to, and there's so many facets to ourselves, right? So I find I look forward to those moments of being able to be by myself, whether it's an hour in the morning or whenever, you know, and really look forward to those moments. Do you feel the same way? Are you finding yourself more comfortable with those moments as opposed to how you felt before? Yeah,
I think that more, like, very recently, that's very recent that I've been able to find that comfort in being alone. I'm, like, in the back of my head, I guess, recent past relationship, the comment was made, I guess, before we broke up, but while we were breaking up, was like, you know, my partner at the time was frustrated of their age and, like, then having to go back out and date again. And I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Like, that's where I'm at too. Like, but I do cherish the time that I have for myself, because, like, I can actually self-assess. I can take a look at my boundaries that I've set myself, see if I'm honoring those boundaries. Also, like, there are certain things that I just do better alone. Like, I work full-time out of teaching. I own brands like Surf Ohio, and I'm the sole employee of that company. So I handle all the social media, I handle the website, I handle all the design, I handle all the printing, fulfillment, all that stuff. And so, and like, I love that. Like, I love that time that I have to myself, because that's the time that I'm also doing a lot of self-reflection and assessment and going, like, all right, where am I at? Like, is this really fulfilling? Like, is this, you know, that kind of thing. So I cherish that time. As a single dad, is hard because I'm trying to like figure out where I am emotionally, and then being able to afford myself that time and set that time up. It's like a lot of the times, unfortunately, it's like I'll leave school talking to students and teachers all day, and I get 15 minutes in my car by myself, and then I have to pick my kids up, and I'm met with a completely different energy than I've been with all day. Either they're having a bad day or they're having a really good day, and either way, it's like up here where I'm like still down here trying to decompress from the day or week that I had, and then I've got to meet them at their level.
Yeah, where they're at.
You know, to keep the rad dad up, as they call me. So yeah.
You could be called worse.
I could, yes, I have been. Yes.
Man, we can both relate to that, obviously, being parents.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can relate to your story too. Actually, this Wednesday's 2 years.
Hell
no
yeah.
alcohol for me. So
Let's go.
yeah, and same thing for me. When I started my business, that's when my drinking started picking up a lot. You know,
Yeah.
the anxiety and the stress, and I used that to help numb it.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you. So, what role, if any, did spirituality play in your recovery process?
I think it's the most significant role. I mean, the first thing that I found after my sobriety was like, why am I here? Okay, my 1500 Chevy, which isn't the largest Chevy they make, but it's a big truck, crew cab, flipped end over front, so like more than 6 times, landed on its tailgate underneath a bridge like this. My side of the truck was crushed completely. My seat mounts broke, and I was sent to the back seat, and I was given lots of damage to my body. Whereas my passenger in the truck opened his door and walked away.
Wow.
He got hurt falling from the truck. He like bruised his shoulder or something. But like, I'm like, why? Why? The first question I had to ask myself is why? Like, why am I still here? I should be dead as fuck right now.
Did you go unconscious at all?
I don't remember anything.
You don't remember anything?
I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember weeks before the accident. I do not remember weeks after the accident. Maybe someday when my neural pathways reconnect, that'll be brought back to me. But at this time in my life, that's not important. And that was the universe telling me, you've got 2 beautiful children. The only reason you're alive right now is because you still have a lot to do with and for those 2 beautiful children. And
more, I'm sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
and more. I mean, I've now discovered what I call, you know, or what I recognize as my ikigai, you know, the Japanese philosophy of finding your purpose and constructing your life around that. They always say you'll never work a day in your life if you love what you do.
Yep.
That's total bullshit. You'll never work a day in your life if you follow your ikigai, if you know what that is. So, and I only recently have embraced and fully believe and trust that my ikigai is to teach, you know, so luckily I ended up a teacher, and to figure that out where I am now, it's really great. But I don't think I'm going to stay a high school career tech teacher for the rest of my career. I've got much more that I can do and impress on people across the globe. You know, I love working with 40 students every year and graduating them as specialists in the industry that I crushed and love, you know, but I miss that industry, and there's a lot of work left to be done in that industry, but also in spirituality, there's a lot, you know, so I share my sobriety story a lot online. It was really funny. Like, actually, I was at Confess, and somebody's like, "Why don't you post anymore?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I post every day." And they're like, "No, about your sobriety on Threads." And I'm like, I didn't realize I've got a lot of followers on Threads, but I didn't realize like anybody was listening. And so like I'm posting on Threads again about my sobriety, and if it's just a check-in, like I'm 1,400 days sober, 1,420 days sober, whatever, something like that.
Man, it's important. I can't tell you how many times I'll post something about my sobriety, and I'll get private messages from
exactly.
people.
So that's like
People are listening. They're paying attention. It's
they are.
important.
And
even if they don't hit, even if they don't smash that like button,
No.
you know,
They don't need to.
they're paying attention.
They don't. Yes, and my personal coach, trainer, and best friend has great stories about the same exact thing. Like people not interacting with the post, but then coming back to them years later, and they're going, "Oh, that really meant that changed there, saved my life." Honestly, you know. And the same for me. It's like I offer my time to anybody. If you want to go have a coffee with me, like I've got 30 minutes. Let's go chat. Maybe I have an hour on that day. That's cool. Like. If it's not business related, I'm not gonna charge for it. Like,
Sure.
I want my community to be healed and whole and better, so that we can all attract abundance, and it will just flow to us.
Absolutely.
And so back to spirituality, it's like it was like the first conscious week that I had in bed to think about like, why am I still here? That's when I was like, all right, I know why I'm here. Now it's time to work on making that happen. So I recovered fairly fast, according to my physical therapist at Ohio Health and Orthopedic One. So, which was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've got another one for you. So, how has your perspective on life changed since your recovery started? And I guess I would encourage you to consider your answer specifically from your accident, not anything prior to, but from your accident to now. How do you think that your perspective has changed?
I think I had a perspective of life before, but it was very wrapped into, you've read The Catcher in the Rye before. I don't think they teach it in school.
Right.
But a lot of that story is about the American dream. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
And I think in my head, when I read that book, I'm an adult with ADHD, and I learned that recently. And one of my things is hyperfixation. And so whether that's like diving into something and just working on that one thing until it's complete, or if it's like picking up something and then hyperfixating on that
right
until it's met with fruition in my life or some other way. And so what I think I hyperfixated on was this idea of the American dream. And what I even more fixated on was exactly how that American dream was written in the book, or around that time of what I was reading about the American dream, that you have to get married, you have to start a business, you have to have kids. This all has to be done at a certain age. And so I worked really hard to get married, start a business, have kids. And then I created an abundance of money. But once I had that money, I didn't know what to do with that money. And for me at the time, that was my addiction. So I was just spending that money on my addiction when I should have been saving the money or investing in more into the company or my family or anything like that. And so when everything was taken away, I had to completely reframe my perspective on life in whole. And that's where I really recognize and set the intention, or recognize that I need to work on myself. And what's that look like when I don't have all the vices to lean on or the crutches to lean on, and recreating my life. It was an opportunity. I also recognized that this is my opportunity to recreate my life. And so I really intentionally focused on that. And was like, I'm not going to fucking do this wrong. Like, I've done so much wrong. I love to teach my students that, my students will constantly say, I'm not good at this or I'm not good at that. I'm like, neither are anybody that's really good at it today. They're experts at failing. You're going to become experts at failing. If you're afraid of failing, that's the first fear that you should overcome right now. Is like, this is your last free square in life. I tell them, like, ask them, like, you like to play bingo, right? And they're like, yeah. Like, what's in the middle of a bingo board? Free space, right? You're in your last free space in life right now. So this is where you should fail hard, like fall, like to run down a gravel road with your hands in your pockets, see how far you make it, and then stand up and look at yourself in the mirror. Like, if you don't get up with like cuts and scrapes all over your face, then you didn't fail hard enough. So you need to run faster and harder. But like, using that as an example is like,
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. It's like, I've created a safe place, hopefully, for my students in my classroom to accept that fear first, but then to face that fear. And so in my life, that's what I'm doing right now, is that I'm just facing all of my fears. And I don't think I actually have any fears. It's really hard for me to get, like, I can't get jump scared. Like, I had a student last year who literally every single day would hide and try to jump scare me, and he couldn't do it. Like, I don't know if it's my intuition and I know or something like that, but like, public speaking, I love it. Like, getting up in front of 1,000 people without a script. I've never written a single script for any public speech I've ever given. And I worked for Facebook and Instagram for a year, traveling with Sheryl Sandberg and Zuckerberg and speaking in front of thousands of strangers. And it was awesome. And it's like the best high, because I'm just speaking from my heart and what I know,
Of course. And it comes through.
Yeah. But like, I kind of forgot the question already, but like, I think that it's, it's really important to like, just recognize where you are, to constantly self-assess, so you're aware. You have to have the utmost awareness to be able to affect positive change or any change on your life, whether it's good or bad. So,
and that definitely applies to the question which was, how has your perspective on life changed? So,
my perspective on life now is that, first and foremost, I have to take care of myself. whatever that looks like, whatever that sounds like. One of my favorite quotes, I've got a lot of favorite quotes, but a lot of them come from my grandfather, and I've one tattooed on my ribs, and that's never forget who you belong to. And what that means is like, you're number one. And he always says that. You have to take care of number one. He also said something to me that was pretty profound, because he was a big bar owner here in Columbus, Ohio for many years. He owned the Castle and Zacharias, some pretty famous bars here. But, and he left all that to buy a farm in Kentucky. And I'm like, I asked him sometimes, like, do you miss it? And he's like, the party will always be there later. And so like now applying that to myself, especially as a person that used to party my ass off before all of this, is that those people are still doing the same thing, just somewhere else. That will always be there. So if you've got work to do, whether it's on yourself or if it's homework or if it's work for your job, just do the work now and delay the gratification, which I teach, because if you delay the gratification, do all the hard work up front, you create a massive amount of space and room for yourself to enjoy what you want to enjoy longer.
Of course.
Yeah.
That also makes me think of the quote, and I tell this to my son all the time, and I find myself repeating it during all these episodes, but nothing in this world comes easy that's worth having. None of it does. Yeah. So by delaying that gratification, when you do finally get the gratification, it's incredible because you delayed it, because you had to work for it. You had to sort of stay within that space of quote unquote suffering to reach that moment. If it's instant, it's like a fleeting moment, and you just let it slip on by. Yeah. And that can be applied so many places and across so many things in life. I mean, with social media, we always want to share what we're doing right away, but like, even if you can delay sharing your entire week till the end of the week, that's going to shift that dopamine hit you get and being able to enjoy that dopamine. Like when people buy a new car or a home, the first thing they post is a picture of their key. Wait until you move in. Yeah. And post a picture of your comfy new home moved in. And like, then recognize that difference that you feel. It's a big sense of achievement, right? Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. I definitely have to shout out to Scott Peck and the book, The Road Less Traveled, because the first chapter in that book is all about delaying your gratification. So if you don't read the whole book, read the first chapter and eat your icing last. Yeah. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. I've got a good question for you. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced during your recovery, and how did you overcome them? Oh, I faced lots of challenges. I mean, again, I'm a doer. So like being in a full leg cast and not being able to move, not being able to go out and do things, like even just going out. I moved from the house that I was in the middle of my recovery into an apartment that was in a basement. And so I couldn't go outside. So like it was weeks, like literally just laying in my bed, looking outside, longing to be outside. I couldn't even reach up to open the window because I don't even think they opened all the way. So, yeah, I mean, biggest challenges. Yeah, I think the thing is that when I decided to get sober, it was Halloween 2020. The city approved our first event at Hen Docks, which is now Fives Bar in like North Campus. And it was an EDM party, and we were outside and inside, and I got to the party, but I was in a wheelchair, and everybody was walking up to me offering me whiskey because that was my favorite, or bourbon and Coke and ketamine. And I'm like, not a single person asked me how I was doing, or not a single person apologized for not offering or showing up to take me to the appointment that they said they would show up to. And so I like looked around and I was like, fuck this. And I wheeled out. I just took my happy ass in my wheelchair home, which was pretty far away. It was cold that night too, but that was the day I got sober. And so luckily for me, and unfortunate for a lot of people in recovery, I don't have triggers. I think there's also the stigma of like, you're always going to be an addict. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. That's not true. I wholly agree with that. It's not true. It's not true. And if you want to have a conversation with me, not an argument, but a conversation with me about how that's not true, I can show you. And I think a lot of people delay even trying to go through recovery because they don't want that label of being an addict or an alcoholic. Get rid of the labels. Yeah. Just do it for you. If anything, like it's a fear tactic, don't you think? It's just a fear tactic to try to keep people in line. Yeah. Everything. Oh my gosh. I relate so much with that. Like I didn't go through AA to get my sobriety. I focused on myself. I have no triggers. Like I'm never going to use cocaine again. I'll never touch ketamine again. I will never drink a drop of alcohol again. I cook with it.
people ask me, do you mind if I drink? Do you mind? I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, you do you.
Exactly.
Like, if you're going to be drunk and falling over, I'll catch you. But the second time you fall over, I'm probably going to be at home because I'm over it. So,
Yeah.
but I don't, so like the hardest part of recovery for me, I think, was time and patience. Like, that's also a big lesson. Like, I've been a very patient person most of my life, but also in business, I wasn't patient because I had money. I was like, I need that and I got it now. But in life, I can't do that with everything. People need time to heal. Things need time to happen and occur. Something else has to happen or occur before it's ready for you, and whatever frequency that is in your existence, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think the biggest struggle that I have is patience, and I'm a very patient person now, but like, I'd love to be, 5 years ahead of where I am now financially, for sure, so.
I think patience is just an ongoing, not just struggle, but it's an ongoing thing that we need to consciously work on, right? Like keep trying to work on, expanding on that space. Like you were talking about having that free space. I feel like patience is similar to that in terms of, because I definitely get triggered in terms of my impatience. I don't drink alcohol. I feel the same way. I grew up with an alcoholic. I don't necessarily feel like I'm in recovery either, but I haven't touched a drop of alcohol in years, and I don't keep track of it. I'm not interested in it. I don't want any part of it. I feel like it's unhealthy, and I know this for a fact from my own personal experiences and what I witnessed in my household. My mother was an alcoholic. My stepfather was an alcoholic. So for me, that's just what it is. But with patience, I feel like for me, there are these sort of triggers that make me kind of, right? Like it makes me not want to be patient and learning to create that certain level of space within those emotions and to separate myself from them somewhat, right? And just kind of look at them and allow the emotions to pass. I feel like that takes effort, it takes energy, and it takes practice. So I feel like that's probably that way for a lot of people.
Yeah. I just recently rewatched the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey in it.
Oh yeah.
It's a great movie, but if you can, he says yes to everything.
Right.
And then when he doesn't, like, something bad happens.
Right.
And if you can apply that same principle to like patience or like things that you're working on for yourself, and you try to force anything, you're going to be met with a resistance.
For sure.
If you go into any conversation hot and heavy, you're going to be met with hot and heavy back.
Of course.
That's how people mirror. And so, like, if you can be mindful, that's a big practice of mine too, is like, just, you don't have to respond right away. You don't have to do anything right away. If you're asked point blank for an answer, you don't have that. Your gun is not to your head. And if it is, I would answer right away. But like almost 100% of the time, I think point a millionth of a time, a gun might be to your head. But like, just like truly give yourself a moment and think. And then when you're ready, respond or act or do, right?
That's great advice.
Yeah.
We so instinctively want to react to
everything
how
is
we
reactive.
feel
Everything
instead
is
of responding.
Yes.
There's such a big difference between reacting and responding.
Yeah, or even redirect.
Right, or redirect.
Right.
Yeah, definitely, which is still a response, right? But
it is, but it's not like... It's
right,
like,
exactly.
Like a little bit of a long road around.
Yeah,
that
totally.
Kind of thing, so.
Yeah, to divert.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
And that diversion is only a lesson.
For
the
sure.
reason why you aren't handed what you want right now is because there's still a lesson in whatever it is that you need to learn. You don't understand fully, possibly. Or you haven't learned a lesson at all.
For sure.
And not every lesson is a failure. There's lessons in success. Like, cherish those and hold on to them because they can be replicated.
Absolutely.
And you can continue to grow. And that's the abundance that will come.
It's resonating with me in terms of patience.
Absolutely.
So I'm kind of like you too. Like, I'm a doer. Like, I'm constantly feeling like, oh, I got this, I got this.
Yeah.
And then I even like shortchange myself in terms of patience, as opposed to having patience with other people and circumstances outside of my control.
Yeah. Speaking on the doing thing and us being doers, is I have my kids every other weekend. So this last weekend I didn't have my kids. The weekend before that I did. And the weekend before that I had blocked my entire weekend for myself. But I had immediately filled that up with everybody else's needs and wants from Zach. And so I was doing client work all week and I was running nonstop, and I didn't get to vacuum the carpet. I didn't get to clean the basement. I made my first big boy purchase as a single man for my birthday last week. A new washer and dryer coming this week. I'm so excited. Like, I don't have to go to the laundromat anymore. I'm like, yes.
So what does spirituality mean to you, and how do you practice it in your daily life?
It starts with I think setting clear boundaries inside your home. First of all, it's all about boundaries, I think, for me at least. And that's to honor myself, make sure that I'm taking care of myself as the best I possibly can. And so what that means, like where I live, it's making sure that my bedroom is a sanctuary. That's for sleep and whatever else you do in the bedroom,
Sure.
right?
And rest.
Right. Yeah. And so that means no screens in the bedroom. That means, I have an Alexa in my bedroom so I can listen to music. But other than that, there's a lamp and my clothes in my bed, and that's where I meditate in the morning and then from there, it's like, what am I doing to make sure that I can attract the abundance that I want to receive? So that's making a vision board so that I'm consciously and subconsciously aware of what I want in my life at all times. That's the community of people that I'm with as well. I've completely rebuilt the community of people that I involve myself with. I have my family that will always be there, and my extended family that will always be there. I have a very, very large extended family, which I'm truly blessed for, and a lot of them are spiritual. So that's really cool. But it's like, it's recognizing like, what do I need? And for me, what I need spiritually is I need to be healthy. I need to be an able body. And so I'm going to the gym 3-4 times a week. And if I'm not in the gym, I'm at least supplementing one gym day with now jiu-jitsu, which is awesome.
Where do you train?
Brazilian jiu-jitsu up in Dublin.
Oh, cool.
Dansegal. Yeah. And actually a really cool story. It's like, side note, he came to me in 2011 and needed a website for his gym, and I built his website for free. And I remember building his website. I don't remember doing it for free, but he just reminded me of that. And like, we were sitting on the mat and he was telling me that story of why I get a lifetime free membership at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's
amazing, man.
Because I helped him selflessly build his website and then print his first round of t-shirts. And that's what helped that gym exist today. And like, I'm just like bawling on the mat. I'm like, oh, goddamn, Dan, like you got me. So,
It's so funny how those moments in your life pop up, and you don't realize like 10 years, 13 years down the line, it's going to come back.
Absolutely. And, I started to think about something, but it stays within their family, but like I've helped their family, my recovery thing too. So that's been pretty big for everybody too. So, but it's like spirituality is just as much for me about like paying attention to synchronicities and trusting my intuition or your gut. If you don't know what intuition is, like research it and trust your gut, like a gut decision. Like if you have a sinking feeling that something's not right, don't do it. Or if you're like, that one's yellow and you know it in your heart, well, that's probably yellow. Flip the cup and it's probably a yellow thing under the cup or whatever, For me, spirituality is, I think a lot of people think that spirituality is like hocus pocus or tarot cards or crystals and all that shit.
Going to church and
church or whatever, or Bible study or however you want to look at the spiritual realm. For me, religion is a story that's been told a bunch of different ways, and the good versions made it on paper and then copied a bunch of times, and then a lot of people were forced to believe that, right? Whether it was through a mission going to their tribe or if it was them made to fear God by their parents and their pastors or priests or whoever, which is really unfortunate because we are the only ones that can create our lives. And if you can trust and embody that you have the ability to create anything that you want in life, then that's your religion. That's your spirituality. And so for me, what that looks like is that I'm making sure that I'm eating healthy, that I'm in the gym, taking care of my body. Your body is a temple. Take care of it. Like if you can imagine living in a shitty house and it's got problems with the pipes, your digestion, or it's got peeling paint, that's skin problems, or if it's got a roof that's coming off, that's your hair problem. All those things you can relate to your body. Like if you're not going to take care of your house, you're probably not going to take care of your body. Take care of you. Take care of your shit, and things will come a little bit easier. They're not just going to come, but you're going to be able to attract from there.
Sure.
And then once you build off of those, then it's about surrounding yourself with the people that you want to create that life and those intentions with, because they will honor it. They will see it. And everyone will recognize the work that you're putting in for yourself and how it's paying off. And they'll go, ooh, I like that. I want that. I need that. and then they'll come ask how, or they'll just start doing it.
Right. Sure. It's like a ripple effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so for me, last February? It feels like so much longer ago, but I came to my first, maybe it was 2 years ago. I went to my first sound bath. And then like right after that sound bath, my partner broke up with me. And it was really hard, but like it peeled back so much for me that I knew that I needed to work. I didn't know that I needed to work on that. And I was alone for the first time, really alone. And I was able to feel that and accept it. And that's when I just started going to more sound baths, because I was like, that's the last place that I felt really comfortable. I don't know any of those people there. I got a hug from Jesse, and I was like, that felt like the most familiar hug that I've ever had other than my mom. So I was like, I need that again. So I started going to sound baths, and I've been to every sound bath that I possibly can, except for the nights that I have my kids. I'm going to be missing my first full moon sound bath in months this month, unfortunately, but maybe I'll find something to watch them. I don't know. But the community that resides in and around the sound bath, the homies, as Jesse has aptly named us, which is pretty cool.
I mean, it definitely applies.
Yeah, they are. It's like, these are all the people that I want in my life, you know, and what they believe and what they've been through. We've all been through something, but we all ended up in this room for some reason.
Sure.
And we understand its healing properties and powers. And if it's not the sound, it's the people that are here. And I love and cherish every relationship that I have with everybody here. So
that's awesome.
yeah, my spirituality, when it comes down to it in a nutshell, it's about my community, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
I think this next question is an interesting one for you to sort of ponder upon and answer, just because it applies to your spirituality. So, and what you currently do as a teacher. So how do you balance your new spiritual beliefs with your professional life as a teacher? I really feel like it's an interesting question to ask, only because, you know, you're instructing children or kids or teenagers or
young
what
adults,
have you, young adults who maybe have no clue about their own spirituality, or have some sense, or really are intuitive to their own spirituality. How do you balance those things? And do you share, you know, your beliefs with some of your students?
I'm an open book. I mean, a lot of teachers will lock up their Instagram or their Facebook.
Sure.
And that's their choice, and that's actually how they're directed, you know, by the district or by whomever. But I'm a public figure, and so what I put online, I'm not lying or hiding anything.
Right.
It's anything that anybody can come and ask me. It's the same thing. So no shame, and there's no reason to hide it. And so I don't like pull out tarot cards or anything like that in my classroom, but I'm talking constantly about like things like delaying gratification or ikigai. Like, I'm like, you guys haven't found your spark yet or your ikigai, but like, I'm teaching you the foundational building blocks that you need to become a graphic designer, that your art elements, your principal designs, all the things and stuff along with that. But I want to like make sure that you guys understand, like, I'm in this job because I learned how to be a problem solver and how to not be an asshole outside of school. And that's, you know, leave it better than you found it. What does it cost to be nice? What's it cost to be nice?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Right? So I encourage my students every single day to leave it better than you found it, whether that's picking up trash or whatever. But that's also in every community that you have. Most people don't realize, they think of their community as like my community that I live in or whatever. No, you've got, if you ride the bus to school, you've got a community that you're in riding your bus to school. Then you get to 4 days and you've got a community that you're residing in. That's my class. Then when you leave here, you got your lunch community. Then you've got your school bus back to your home school. Then you've got your home school. Then you got your sports after school. Then you've got your ride or whatever, you've got 10, 15 communities every single day.
Of course.
Leave every single one better than you found it.
If you're walking to your like local park, I mean, that's another
Pick up
community,
trash,
right?
or
Yeah.
give somebody a compliment. Like, I don't know how many times I've heard strangers be like, you know, thanking me for the random compliment, whether it's like their shirt or like, I think their kids' laugh is funny, or I'm not trying to be like weird in Kroger and be like, oh, your kids a cute laugh or whatever. But I'm like, you know, I'm with my kids, so it's not that creepy, I guess.
I mean, you may be that person's only positive interaction for that day, you know?
Or for that month. Who knows?
Yeah.
That person could be like on the ledge.
Yeah.
And they could be at Kroger buying the things and stuff to push themselves off that ledge. But then you give them one compliment, and then you see them at Kroger the next day, and the next day, and the next day.
For sure.
You know? It's like when you're checking out at Kroger, for instance. Everything is self-checkout now, but they still have people man those. And they're job all day long is to fix the computer's problem. So their interactions with people are pretty shitty every single day. So I know every single self-checkout person's name at my Kroger, and I greet them every single day, and I ask them how their day is going, and I thank them for what they do. Every single, my kids used to be like, why do you know their name? Why do you know that? Now my kids do the same thing.
Yep. Yeah, you're
Will,
teaching them by
Sheldon,
example.
and Karen, if you're watching this, probably not, but like, I love you. You guys rock.
Yeah.
Those are my
beautiful,
Kroger
man.
people.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I try to do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Right. That's awesome.
Pull up to a drive-through. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
And some people are taken aback. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like,
That's because you're breaking their matrix. I mean, that's
yeah,
really all it
everybody's
is.
programmed.
We're in this structure,
Yes.
right? We're all in this unconscious structure. Even those of us who are conscious, we're still at certain times in this unconscious structure, the matrix.
Fully.
It makes me think of this one time when I was at a Starbucks and this gentleman forgot my coffee probably for like a good 20 minutes, but he was like, it was just him. There was another person who wasn't doing much, and then the person at the drive-through. So he was trying to handle all like the walk-in orders, and there was like stacks of coffees, and I had ordered a decaf, so I'm sure it was kind of like odd for them, like that's not as common. And I walked up to the counter after he had acknowledged me, and he was preparing it, but he must have just forgotten about it. I was like, yeah, I was just wondering if my coffee's ready yet. And he was so apologetic, and I was like, listen, man, I know you're busy, and I know you're up here all by yourself, and you're handling all these coffees. He's like, yeah, but that's no excuse for me to. And I'm like, no, you're fine, really.
Yeah.
It's totally okay,
Yeah.
and I hope that your day gets better. Like he was expecting the opposite. I could just tell by his demeanor, and then once I sort of shifted that perspective, he made eye contact with me, and he was like, thank you.
That's the other thing. Eye contact. Holy shit.
Totally, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like eye contact.
Nobody wants to make eye contact.
Like, that's insane. Like,
Yeah.
just that these fucking things are so powerful
They
and
are.
so bad.
That's
are,
where we make
yeah.
eye contact. We make
So
eye
bad.
contact
So
on our
bad.
screens.
Like,
Yeah.
one of the first things I do with my students every year is I apologize to them for being addicted. It's not their fault. But
For sure.
like, if you think about, like, even when they're children, like babies, their parents aren't necessarily thinking of it consciously. They're definitely not. They're on their phone constantly. And
Of
it's like,
course.
that's a trait that your kid is learning. They're learning to pick up this thing that they can't touch yet. So now they're going to want it.
Yep.
And then when you give it to them, they're not going to give it up.
So true.
And you train addiction into your
I
child.
mean, that's how we are.
Like
Yeah.
that.
That's how
Oh, yeah.
we're
Absolutely.
we're just grown
So,
children
yeah.
doing the same thing.
That's
We're
like-
all addicted.
One thing, and I don't know if you asked this question, but a big thing, and I think I've mentioned a couple times, is setting boundaries. Like,
Sure.
that is one of the largest pieces to this whole puzzle. It's like setting and honoring boundaries for yourself, but the people that are in your life. And that's boundaries in the bedroom, like no fun in the bedroom. That's going to bed at a
Wait,
certain
did you
time.
say no fun in
No
the bedroom?
fun. No, that's what the bedroom is for, sleep and fun. But like, it's like, turning off all the notifications. The only notifications I have on this phone are email
Same.
and phone and text.
I don't even
and
have
when
those.
when I'm teaching, it's on do not disturb. And I just discovered the mindfulness focus setting. I'm like, oh,
I keep it all on silent, so there's no sound on my phone. There'll be notifications that come up on the screen, but if it's bedtime, I flip that phone over, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be
I
notified of anything other than
I do have alarm set on my phone, and if I can remember to leave it upstairs, I will leave it upstairs. But otherwise, I've got smart lights, and so they turn off at 5 a.m. or 4:30 in the morning. That's what wakes me up now, which is beautiful because I'm not immediately looking at my phone. And even if you're just using your phone for alarms, if you've got all the notifications showing on your screen, you're subconsciously trained to think, what are all those notifications? So
Of
you're
course.
going through your morning routine. The goal is to get your notifications, though.
Of
So
course.
like, put this somewhere
course.
else, turn the notifications off, and try that for a week and see how it affects
Sure.
your sleep, how it affects your morning routine, all of those things.
That
Yeah,
makes a
'cause
lot of sense.
If you look at your phone right away, you go from that theta state, being in the dream state,
Yes.
right to the beta state.
Yeah.
And you have no recovery time. You have no transition time. You're like shocking yourself. You're going from one thing to another, and it's going from zero to whatever the world's at right now. And it's
Yeah.
like a lot of shock that you don't need.
Can greatly affect your stress for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Just that one
Absolutely.
interaction with your phone.
it's
Yeah.
true.
I know. I'll pick up the phone and I'll have something like a text message from a client that gets to me right away. If I would have just waited an hour, it wouldn't have affected me that much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's such a big pressure though too, right? And we all feel this as, business owners, we're constantly waiting on notifications because we're trying to cultivate, our businesses, and we're in this rat race, and we're in this matrix, and you can't help but those thoughts are triggered in your mind, whether there's notifications or not,
For sure.
And it's
Yeah.
just, it's such it's so consuming,
Yeah. Yeah. When the Verizon outage happened last week, I was pissed. in the beginning, but I was like, damn, this is really nice. Like I don't have to worry about my phone all day or until whenever they fix it.
People were freaking out about that.
I mean, people lost clients. I lost a client, but like at the end of the day, it's like, whatever.
Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give to other people that are struggling with addiction?
The first piece of advice I would give to anyone struggling from addiction is like, ask for help. That might be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, but it will quickly become the easiest thing that you do in your life going forward because so many people want to help you. Like, it doesn't matter if you're a super nice person, super caring person struggling with addiction, or you're a complete asshole and you've completely screwed up everything in your life. Somebody wants to help you. Somebody's there to help you. Just ask for help. There are hotlines you can call. You can put a post on social media. You could reach out to me. You could go to AA. You could go to smartrecovery.org. There's so much out there. Just ask for help. That's the first step. If you've already asked for help and you're still struggling with addiction, it's just to self-assess. Like, why am I feeling this way? Like, what don't I recognize? What do I need to face? Why am I this uncomfortable? If you're that uncomfortable, there's something going on, like larger than you, within you, that you need to work on. It's not about fixing anything. None of us need fixed. We just need a little help and understanding and organization, and then to hold and respect our boundaries. And I think that's one of the biggest tools is like, again, just asking for help, but then being able to self-assess. Like if you lie on a self-assessment, like I tell my students, if you lie on a self-assessment, who are you hurting?
You're only cheating yourself.
You're only cheating yourself.
It's like going to the doctor and not being completely honest with the doctor.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all do that constantly.
Yeah.
I feel like, we do it all
Even
the
if
time.
you're uncomfortable in front of your doctor telling them about something, like that's why they're there.
Yeah,
they're
totally.
medically trained professional to deal with your discomfort. So
Totally.
tell them about it.
Totally.
If it's really gross, like share all the gory details
Yeah.
with them because they love that stuff. That's why they became a
Well,
doctor.
I was going to say,
you
imagine
know?
the things that they hear.
Right.
You think you're the only person walking
Right.
in there. And I always
Right.
think that train of thought always makes it a little less scary to share.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do. Like you said, that's what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, it's like on the point of like scared to share. It's like there's 8 billion people in this world, and like if you're afraid to get up in front of a small group of people and talk and fail, nobody's gonna remember that shit.
Yeah.
Like I hate to tell you, but like the only person that's gonna have a core memory about that failure is you, if you don't let it go and move on.
Totally. There's always like, and I'm sure you guys will relate to this, but like, let's say you were in a certain social situation and maybe you said something that maybe felt socially awkward to you.
Oh,
and
that's
and,
me
right,
all the time.
Right. and maybe you're more than likely the only person still thinking about it.
Absolutely.
It's not like
You
the person
are.
you may have said it to
Right.
may have thought about it because maybe they were like, "Oh, that was a weird thing Aaron said," but they're not giving it any thought. You're the one giving it that energy, right?
Yeah.
You're the one continuing to mull it over in your mind.
Absolutely.
That was so stupid to say. I'm such a moron, and it's just like so ridiculous,
Yeah, really quick story. I mean, when I was in middle school, I was in Model UN, and our team was doing really well, and we had some of the top of my class in our team. But when it came up to the final questions in front of the judge, you had one chance to respond to the judge. And I responded to the judge with the question that the judge asked me. So we got 0 points, and we didn't get first place. And that kind of screwed up the opportunities for the people in my group. Now they're on to life and they're married and they're millionaires or doing great things and doctors and everything. So their lives are fine. But for me, I internalized that. And then what that became for me is like, I'm afraid to talk in front of people. But when I moved to Columbus, I had the opportunity to reinvent and recreate my life. And, my twin brother actually didn't move here with me. He stayed in Athens with my stepdad and finished high school down there. So when I moved here, I reinvented myself as this person that I didn't have any brothers. But I was like a very outgoing, and I wasn't a shy person, and I was ready to public speak in front of everybody because like at some point before realizing they were going to be fine, I think I had internalized enough of it so much that I almost broke myself. So I was like, I have to overcome this. And that's why I'm a great public speaker today. And that's why I love talking. And that's why I can project. And that's why I'm not afraid of anything because like in the grand scheme of things, who gives a fuck? Like nobody's going to remember this shit. There are 8 billion people in the world. Like if I said something stupid on this today, sure, it would be recorded for people to go back and find or whatever. But like, unless like they're out to get me, it's not going to be posted all over the web
Right.
for them to demoralize me. And so I can't become a politician or whatever.
Exactly.
Right? Present can'ts in my life, but can'ts are just challenges. So just overcome them. It's just, you've got another lesson to learn.
Totally.
Bigger thing to overcome.
That makes sense. I've got a question. Looking back, what would you tell your younger self before addiction took hold? If you could. What would you tell yourself?
So these questions are always interesting because like if anybody I think was put in my shoes and looked back at my life, they'd be like, oh shit, there's a lot of regret there. I have no regrets. I don't regret anything that I've ever done in my life.
Sure.
Sure, I feel bad about how I've treated certain people, but I don't like regret it. I think again, everything was a lesson to get to where I am today.
Absolutely.
So I can only just be better going forward, right? Yeah, looking back, what would I tell younger Zach?
And I think that just to sort of frame the question, don't necessarily think of it as like, oh, well, what kind of advice would you give him so that he wouldn't, do what he did. I'm just think of it as a general open question. Think about the things that you know now, maybe didn't know then.
I think that the things that I know now that I didn't know then is that there is no manual. I'm a very process-driven person. I understand the importance of instruction and direction, and understanding the instruction and direction before you begin something. Like I know a lot of people will buy stuff from IKEA, they'll just rip the box open, and then they post a picture or video of how pissed off they are an hour or two, 5 hours later, and they've only got like one piece put together. It's like, well, did you read the directions?
Yeah.
Because if you read the directions first, you realize that IKEA actually forgot a whole bag of screws, and you've been using the wrong ones. So if you can apply that same thing to life, there's no directions or instruction manual for life. So if I'm looking back on what I thought was, why didn't my parents do this or why didn't my parents do that? They didn't have any instruction. I'm a single dad. I didn't have any instruction on this. I was raised by a single mom. She didn't have any instruction on that. She did a beautiful and amazing job with what she had and created for us.
Yeah.
And so anybody in life, like if you're struggling with your parents right now, just take a deep breath and pause and don't meet their frustration or anger or that just creates a misunderstanding. We're all anxious people because of all the things that are flying around in our lives today. So if we can try to put down some of the anxiety and just really, again, self-reflect and assess, like nobody knows what the fuck they're doing right now.
Right.
Like you might have an SOP in your job and you know what you're supposed to do in your job, but when you leave a job, what are you supposed to do? Go home, make dinner, feed the kids, whatever, those things. But like there's always going to be something that pops up, a curveball or whatever that's going to come in. Just take the tools that you have and utilize them the best that you can against whatever that curveball is. And if you can't, then ask for help.
What are your best tools? What are your best tools in your arsenal to navigate through life? Your best tools. My best tools in life. I think my number one tool is recently, especially, and that's something we're always constantly working on, but is recognizing and understanding boundaries for ourselves and then those in our life. And then your word, your words have so much power, and that's how you speak every day, trading ifs for whens, shoulds for coulds. Are you directing people constantly? They should, or you could. You could offer some help instead of you should offer some help, because it's up to them whether they want to use it or not. Such a huge difference.
It is a huge difference
between those two words.
Almost all words, there's an opposite for it. So we've got to be very intentional about the
But I just mean could and should specifically,
right?
In terms of being an instructor or a teacher,
yes,
and how that applies.
And it's constant. I'm constantly met with this every single. Mr. Traxler, can I go to the bathroom? I don't know. Can you?
Teachers said that all the time.
But like it's real. My stepdad said to me all the time, so I use it now. It's like are you physically able to?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have you ever used the bathroom before? That kind of thing. So,
social constructs, man, and the way that our wording and what we've grown accustomed to how we say things.
That, and then
we don't realize the impact that it has on us because we just take the phrase, "Can I go to the bathroom?" We just take it for granted.
Yeah.
And your response, and most kids are like, "Huh?"
And a big part of that too is huh? What? And they're like, I don't know. But I think also a big part of that is like and word choices, like, it might be going on a tangent here, but that's also like, don't say what you think people want you to. Don't say what you think people want to hear.
Right.
Say exactly what you mean.
Right.
Don't sugarcoat it. Don't change or embellish it. Don't unembellish it. Like, say, if you're worked up and emotional, like, speak from your heart, from your pure being, because that's what needs to be said and heard. Because it's authentic. Be authentic. 100%. There is no 110%, by the way. I hate when people say that. Like, we have a cap, and that's 100%. If we had more than 100%, we would have lots of problems with superhumans and all that.
For sure.
Yeah, so.
Turn it up to 11, man.
Yeah, this is not Spinal Tap.
How do you plan to continue integrating your recovery, spirituality, and profession into your life as you move forward?
So I think I said earlier, but I've found my ikigai, my purpose in life, and I believe my purpose in life is to teach. And so whether that's in a high school setting in a career tech, I don't believe it is, unfortunately, for career tech and the students of career tech in many years to come, but I'm going to build the best program that I can before I leave. But my next move is to impress what I've learned and the lessons that I've learned in my life and give those up as examples and scenarios or stories or however somebody needs to digest it in a different podcast setting or coaching or something like that. But I want to move on to where my focus is 100% of somebody else's well-being. I know that I'm never going to be 100% healed, but I can definitely share all of my stories and tools and connections that I have selflessly to help build a better, more beautiful, and stronger community around myself. That's really what I want. That's also why that I, completely immerse myself in the home sound bath and meditation crowd. Is like, it's 100% authentic. I've not met a person that's disingenuine or anything in this entire group of people.
That's how I feel too. I mean, I know I'm brand new to the group, but
well, that's how we met. That's
I feel the same way. That's right.
That's right. It's meant to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do the breakdown.
The breakdown.
So for those who are listening or are new to our podcast, if you're hearing this episode, the breakdown is a segment that we do where we take a famous or not so famous quote and we break it down. So what's your quote, Zach?
I had lots of quotes, and actually it was really hard for me to decide. But this morning I landed on the only way out is through.
I love that too. It's such a great quote.
And to piggyback on that, there's the, story or analogy of buffaloes. Buffaloes are beautiful, magnificent, smelly, dirty creatures, but they're cool in the fact that, like, when they're out in North Dakota, South Dakota, out west in the Plain States, those are some crazy blizzards, right?
Yeah, crazy storms.
You notice that these entire herds of buffalo will turn directly and walk straight into the storm.
Mm-hmm.
The only way through is to face it and go through it. That's the
right.
fastest way through it, actually. I mean, you could run from it and eventually it'll pass, but like, just face it and go straight through.
Mm-hmm.
And if you treat that with anything in your life, it's going to be super uncomfortable. But if you can do the uncomfortable things in life, then you can do anything. Like, I just recently did an ice plunge yesterday. And I've done a plunge before, but I've never gone like all the way in. I've got my body in, like, and I've lasted like 30 seconds. Like, I went up to my neck for over 3 minutes. That was insane.
It's hard to do.
And then I got out of the sauna and I was about to leave and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go all the way under. And I got it. I jumped in all the way under, stayed under for 6 seconds. It was a completely different experience. And that's how I want to do my ice plunges for the rest of my life, is I'm going to plunge for as long as I can underwater. I don't think there's any health benefits for staying completely underwater for that long. It's probably not good for you. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. But either way, this helps with, that initial shock.
Of course.
Helps my body regulate, and then I can endure that cold. One of the side effects from my accident and my TBIs or brain contusions is that I have tremors on the right side of my body only that are activated by stress, fatigue, and cold. And so that ice plunge that I did Sunday at Massage Garage in Bexley, Kate's got an amazing business, so shout out to her. I didn't get tremors all day. I was cold all day. After I had goosebumps, literal goosebumps on my body all day. It helped me shave for my tattoos, which was nice. But like I had to sit with that cold, not just on part of my body, through my entire body, and then like when are the tremors going to come? When are the tremors going to come? They didn't at all, which was so amazing. So like, really now it's like, am I releasing my tremor during cold because it's activated by a shiver, or is it that I'm constantly living with this stress and fatigue? And so now it's me assessing like what is bringing me stress and fatigue in my life. And
I'm not a doctor, but I believe that what you're doing is you're resetting your nervous system by doing so, by exposing your nervous system, because that's what reacts to cold and heat.
Right.
By doing this extreme exercise, you're forcing that system to reset itself.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor either, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is too.
Yep,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And the more that you do it, I bet it's possible that the less tremors you'll have.
Yeah.
I've also heard that going completely underwater when you first do the cold plunge is a good way to do it because it triggers your fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then keep it up to your neck or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think I heard that on Andrew Huberman.
I need to do that. I need to get back into it, man. I've been slacking on the cold plunges.
Somebody told me you have one in your basement.
We
What?
do. We have a I know.
I know.
My wife is a recovery addict. She's all about the recovery. We have a sauna as well at home, and
Coming over to your house.
we utilize the sauna a good deal, but it's the cold plunging that's difficult. I think another thing in relation to what you're saying, since we're breaking down this quote, and having to go through it. Challenging yourself to do something difficult every day builds resilience.
Absolutely.
And that in and of itself is such an important tool in the world that we live in. And it's funny, our last episode that we did with Jesse, he mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. He was speaking about how we are so lucky and blessed to live sort of as comfortably as we are in this day and age. All the more reason to try to tackle the things that come our way that are difficult. All the more reason to try to face them and try to go through them, as opposed to avoiding them, running from them, trying to run around them. It just makes sense for the fact that it just builds strength and resilience and patience with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the quote, "The only way out is through," I had to take notes to make sure that I didn't miss on this one, but is the whole idea is that it speaks to the challenges and the difficulties that are all a part of our growth.
Of course.
And if we face them head on and we find healing, transformation, and deeper understanding of whatever. I mean, it could be that thing that you're facing, but it could be, I mean, there's so much around each thing that we do that you could uncover something you didn't even realize.
Absolutely.
That wasn't associated or is adjacent to it. And this adjacent thing is like, oh, I've got to deal with that. And then I can focus on this and grow.
It promotes growth. Makes complete sense.
Yeah. I mean, and the biggest thing is like, if you can embody the only way out is through, is that there is the past and the past is the past. There's nothing that can change the past ever. Right. So get over it and move on. And this future, that's you creating false expectation, hope, and you should have hope and dreams, but like everybody reacts differently when something doesn't happen how they expect it to, because they don't realize that they've fully wrapped whatever it is in this expectation.
Sure.
And big thing is expectation in relationships, especially new relationships. Like, just let go of all that expectation, and then everything is going to be beautiful, because you're not going to be expecting it to be one way or another. It's just going to be something new that you can fully accept and embrace, and hopefully, like, be present for.
Sure.
Because now is now.
For sure.
There isn't then, there isn't tomorrow.
Life is just a series of present moments.
It's all
that's all it is.
Moments. Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's so funny how we keep coming up to that same quote.
I know. What do you think, Aaron?
I mean, yeah, the only way out is through. I use that every day in my life, It could be something like just washing the dishes. Like, I don't want to do this, but you got to go through it. You got to do it.
I love washing the dishes, so that's not a problem for me. I don't know why. That's like I meditate this thing. I have a dishwasher in my apartment. I've never used it. It's brand new. I think I used it once because my kids begged me to, but the dishes that from the first week when I moved in there, they're still in there. Yeah. We don't need them that much, I guess,
I tend to wash dishes a lot more often than we use the dishwasher, even though we use the dishwasher. But I think it's just a habit I've had since I was a kid, doing dishes manually, even though we had a dishwasher then too. But
we used to fight so much over who was going to do dishes as kids. So I think that carried over.
Yeah. I like what you said though with the card set that your wife got you for your anniversary, and how you're trying to utilize the present moment with the task at hand.
Yep.
I think that's such a helpful thing too. Not necessarily. washing the dishes is just a mundane chore we have to do. But if you could draw yourself into that present moment and really sort of pay attention to the practice of it itself, then you're not looking at it as a mundane thing.
For
And
sure.
that helps you get through it, you know?
Yeah. And I can't tell you, man, just going to Muay Thai, how many times I have to get through a round. You just got to go through it. You can't give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
That place has taught me more, that quote more than anything, I think. Yeah. But and then you carry that over into your life, you know.
Right.
Like if I have to have a hard conversation with somebody, I'm gonna go just get it done instead of just procrastinating.
Right.
Letting that fester.
Through resilience, you build growth in all aspects, like how you were saying. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I think also it's like practice. Lots of practice, like just practice, whatever it is, practice.
Right.
I mean, I still play, but I used to have memorized lots of songs and chords. I've grown up playing music since I was like 16, but as a result of my TBIs, I had motor skill issues. My right hand doesn't move as fast as my left hand anymore, so I can't necessarily fingerpick like I used to right now. I couldn't remember chords. I couldn't remember lyrics. So June 1st, this last summer, I set a boundary and committed to myself that I was going to practice guitar every day for at least 15 minutes. And I have, and I just performed this last Friday at Fort Hayes in an auditorium.
That's right. I saw your post about that.
Thank you. I've been going to open mics and stuff, and that's a little different, you know, but like going in front of an audience of like your peer teachers and then your students and the community, and then having beautiful sound all around you. Like I've never heard myself play before. So like almost obviously my worst critic. I got over editing videos before I post them. I don't edit them. If I do, it's just put captions on them. I don't like actually watch the whole thing because I don't want to critique myself. I just put it out there. But like my practice every day for 15 minutes has shown that it does work. And now I've got songs memorized again, and I can sing from the heart. I can work on my inflection and how I deliver my vocals, because like I'm not worried about making the right note hit the right lyric at a certain time. Like it's and so now I teach that, and I did that to show my students like, this is where I was a year ago. 2 years I couldn't even play. Now this is where I am because I've committed to 15 minutes a day. So now apply that to this or this or this, whatever you want in life. Just give yourself the time and set the boundary that you're not going to do whatever else until you get that done. And if you can commit and hold to that, holy shit, you can make and have whatever you want in life.
That's awesome. Yeah. With that being said, I think it's the perfect moment to call it here. Hey, Zach, we just want to thank you again for joining us today and sharing all of your insights and being willing to be so vulnerable and truly share your story. Why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you?
For sure. On all social media at Zachary Traxler. And then my website is currentfruitions.com. That's where I sell some of my apparel. Also Surf Ohio. I run several other brands, but if you want to get a hold of me, the easiest place is on social media, just at Zachary Traxler.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Zach. This has been super inspiring for me as well. So.
Yeah, definitely, man.
I'm really glad to hear that.
I know that your story will resonate with our viewers or listeners, and like I said, we're just really appreciative that you were willing to come on and be vulnerable and share it. It'll inspire people for sure.
I'm an open book, and so if you started to get something out of something I didn't say and I didn't complete the thought or whatever, just reach out to me. I'm always available,
and we're always open to part twos, man. Like we've been saying that since we started the podcast. We could just never feel like we have enough time to cover it all. So
just scratching the surface.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Love it. I love you guys. I really appreciate it.
Love you as well, man.
What you guys
Thanks for sharing, for real.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Love you. Bye.